How I finally left my cheating wife and reclaimed my happiness. Hey, Reddit. I never thought I'd be the guy posting here, but life has a funny way of slapping you in the face when you least expect it. So here I am. I need to get this off my chest because my whole world just flipped upside down, and I honestly don't know what to do. A little background: my wife, Emily, and I have been married for 7 years. We met in college, had that whirlwind romance, and got married young because, back then, it felt like we were invincible. She was my best friend, my partner in crime, the one person I trusted more than anyone. I genuinely thought we were happy. Sure, we had the usual ups and downs, but nothing that ever felt like a red flag. Lately, though, something's been off. Emily's always been strong-willed, opinionated, and, let's be honest, a little difficult at times. But that's just who she is. I never minded it because, well, I loved her. But over the past few months, things started to change. She became distant. Cold. Snappy over the smallest things. Every little thing I did seemed to annoy her, and when I tried to talk about it, she'd just roll her eyes and say I was overthinking things. She started working late more often, keeping her phone glued to her hand like it was a life support machine, and getting defensive whenever I so much as glanced at it. I told myself I was just being paranoid. That I was reading too much into things. That stress, work, life, whatever, was just taking a toll on her. But deep down, that nagging feeling wouldn't go away. And then, a few days ago, I found something. Something that changed everything. So, a few days ago, Emily was in the shower, and her phone lit up on the nightstand. Normally, I wouldn't even think twice about it, but something in my gut told me to look. I know, snooping is wrong. But at this point, I felt like I was losing my mind. She had been so secretive lately, and I just needed to know if I was imagining things or if there was actually something going on. The message preview read, "Last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about you." My heart dropped. My hands started shaking. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. I grabbed her phone, unlocked it, I knew the passcode, she never changed it, and scrolled through the messages. The guy's name was Aver in her contacts, but the second I opened the thread, I knew this wasn't some random female friend. The messages were disgusting. Flirty, graphic, and way too detailed for me to ever erase from my brain. They had been talking for months, planning meetups, sneaking around, making fun of me. One message from her, just the day before, read, "He's so clueless, LOL. I don't even have to try to cover my tracks." I felt my entire body go numb. My wife, the woman I had trusted with everything, was laughing at me behind my back while she was screwing someone else. And then, as if the universe wanted to test just how much I could take, the shower turned off. Emily was about to walk in. I barely had time to process what I had just read before the bathroom door swung open, steam rolling out like some dramatic movie scene. Emily walked in, towel wrapped around her body, scrolling through her wet hair with her fingers. She didn't notice me at first. But then she did. And the second she saw me sitting on the edge of the bed, holding her phone, her entire face changed. Her usual smug, dismissive expression faltered for a split second, just long enough for me to catch it. Then, just like that, she snapped back into her mode. The defensive, manipulative, nothing is ever my fault mode. "The hell are you doing with my phone?" she snapped, tightening the towel around herself like I was the intruder here. I didn't say anything at first. I couldn't. My throat felt tight, like I was choking on the weight of everything I had just seen. Finally, I managed to croak out, "Who the hell is this?" and held up the screen. Her eyes flicked to the phone. Just for a split second. Just enough time for her to register that I knew. That I had proof. And then? She laughed. Laughed. "Oh my God, are you serious?" she scoffed, rolling her eyes like I had just accused her of something ridiculous. "You're really going through my phone now? Jesus, you're so insecure." I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the phone. Instead, I forced myself to stay calm. I read the messages, Emily, I said, my voice shaking. I saw everything. That's when she switched tactics. The lying started immediately. It's not what you think. He's just a friend. We joke around like that all the time. You're twisting things in your head. You're acting crazy right now. Gaslighting. Classic. But I wasn't falling for it. Not this time. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, but my hands were clenched so tight I could feel my nails digging into my palms. Cut the crap, Emily, I said, my voice lower now, controlled but ice cold. I saw the messages. The meetups. The things you said about me. She crossed her arms, her wet hair dripping onto her shoulders. Wow. So now you're spying on me. Invading my privacy. That's really messed up, you know. I almost laughed at the sheer audacity of it. Her privacy. She was cheating on me, and somehow, I was the bad guy for catching her. Are you serious right now? I scoffed. Your idea of privacy is hiding the fact that you've been screwing someone else. She rolled her eyes, sighing like she was the one dealing with me being unreasonable. Oh my God, you're so dramatic. Nothing even happened, okay? We were just talking. That's it. Jesus, you always blow things out of proportion. I held up the phone again, scrolling to one of the more graphic messages. So this is just talking. You can't wait to feel him inside you again, that's just friendly banter. For a split second, she froze. Just long enough for me to see the gears turning in her head. She was scrambling for a way out, trying to figure out which lie to run with. Then she scoffed again. You know what? Believe whatever the hell you want, she snapped, grabbing her phone out of my hand. If you're gonna be this paranoid and controlling, maybe I should be the one reconsidering this marriage. And just like that, she flipped the script. Like I was the problem. Like she was the victim. I felt my blood boiling. I had spent years loving this woman, trusting her, giving her everything, and this was how she reacted when she got caught. No apology. No regret. Just pure, unfiltered manipulation. I knew right then and there, this wasn't just one mistake. This was who she was. I stood there, staring at her, feeling like I was seeing her for the first time. The woman I married, the woman I thought I knew, was gone. Or maybe she was never really there to begin with. Maybe I had been blind to who she actually was. She was pacing now, shaking her head like I was exhausting her. I can't believe this, she muttered, still playing the victim. You're blowing this way out of proportion. Nothing even happened. Nothing happened. I repeated, my voice dangerously low. Emily, you literally planned meetups with this guy. I read everything. How dumb do you think I am? She let out a sharp, bitter laugh. Oh my God, you're so insecure. This is why I never tell you anything, because you always freak out over nothing. Nothing. That word hit me harder than I expected. My marriage, my trust, my love, all of it meant nothing to her. I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears, but I forced myself to stay calm. Who is he? I asked, crossing my arms. Just tell me the truth. For once in your life, be honest. She scoffed again, shaking her head like I was the one being ridiculous. It's just some guy from work, she said, shrugging like it was no big deal. It wasn't serious. It didn't mean anything. There it was again. Didn't mean anything. So, let me get this straight, I said, my voice slow, measured. You've been sneaking around, lying to my face, laughing at me behind my back, and none of it meant anything to you. She rolled her eyes. Oh my God, stop being so dramatic. I felt something inside me snap. Not in an explosive way. Not in an angry, shouting, throwing things way. No, this was something deeper. A realization. A cold, undeniable truth settling into my bones. This woman didn't love me. She never did. And I knew, right then and there, that I was done. Something inside me shifted at that moment. It was like a switch flipped, and all the hurt, the betrayal, the heartbreak, it just stopped weighing me down. Instead, all I felt was clarity. I wasn't going to argue with her anymore. I wasn't going to beg for answers she'd never give me. I wasn't going to waste another second trying to make sense of her. She wasn't worth it. "All right," I said, my voice disturbingly calm. "I'm done." Emily frowned, probably expecting me to keep fighting, to keep caring. "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" "It means I'm done with this conversation. I'm done with you. I'm done with this entire mess." She blinked. "Oh, come on. You're being ridiculous." I grabbed my keys from the nightstand and turned toward the door. "Where are you going?" she demanded, her voice laced with frustration, like she couldn't believe I was the one walking away. I looked back at her, really looked at her. The woman I had spent years loving. The woman who had lied to my face without hesitation. The woman who had laughed about my trust like it was some kind of joke. And all I felt was nothing. "I don't know," I said. "But anywhere is better than here." Then I walked out. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. I walked out of the house without looking back. I didn't even know where I was going, I just needed to be away from her, from the lies, from the toxic, suffocating mess that my marriage had become. I got in my car, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. My mind was racing, replaying everything, her smug face, her gaslighting, the way she acted like I was the one ruining things. It was infuriating. But at the same time, it was liberating. I started driving, no destination in mind. Just street after street, trying to process the fact that my marriage was over. That the woman I had built a life with, shared everything with, was nothing more than a selfish, lying manipulator. At some point, I ended up in a parking lot outside a random diner. The neon lights buzzed above me, and I realized I hadn't eaten all day. My stomach was in knots, but I figured food was better than sitting in my car, staring into the void. I walked in, found a booth in the back, and ordered a coffee. The waitress must have noticed something was off because she gave me that "you okay?" kind of look. I just nodded. I wasn't okay. But I didn't even know where to start. That's when my phone buzzed. Emily. I stared at the screen, my jaw tightening. She hadn't even given me 5 minutes before trying to reel me back in. I let it ring. Then, a text popped up. "You're being childish. Come home so we can talk." I let out a bitter laugh. Talk? Like she hadn't spent the last hour gaslighting me and treating me like I was crazy? No. I wasn't falling for it. Not this time. I put my phone on silent, took a sip of my coffee, and for the first time in a long time, I started thinking about what I wanted. And I knew damn well it wasn't her. I sat there in that diner, phone face down on the table, staring into my coffee like it had the answers to everything. I felt hollow, like my brain was still trying to catch up with reality. But one thing was crystal clear, I wasn't going back. Not to her. Not to that house filled with lies. Not to a marriage that was already dead. My phone buzzed again. Another text. Then another. I sighed, finally flipping it over. Seriously? You're ignoring me now? Come home and stop acting like a child. You're making this way bigger than it needs to be. I shook my head, half in disbelief, half in amusement. The absolute nerve of this woman. No apology. No remorse. Just the same manipulative, condescending attitude. Then, another text popped up. And this one was different. "If you walk away from this marriage, you'll regret it. I promise you that." I stared at the words, feeling a chill run down my spine. Regret it? Was that a threat? Was she really trying to intimidate me now? I exhaled slowly, rubbing a hand over my face. This wasn't just desperation, this was her losing control. She was used to getting her way, used to me being the guy who forgave, who let things slide, who stayed. But not this time. I didn't reply. I wasn't playing her game. Instead, I finished my coffee, left a tip on the table, and walked back out into the night. And just as I reached my car, another text came through. Fine. If you wanna act like this, I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of husband you really are. I froze. What the hell was she planning now? I stood there in the parking lot, staring at that message, my pulse pounding in my ears. What kind of husband I really am? What the hell was she trying to pull now? Emily had already cheated, lied, and gaslit me into oblivion. And now she was threatening to ruin my reputation. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm, but my hands were shaking with frustration. I wasn't surprised. This was exactly the kind of manipulative move she'd pull when she realized she was losing control. A few seconds later, another message popped up. You think people are gonna take your side? LMAO. Good luck explaining why you abandoned your wife in the middle of the night. Then another. Everyone's gonna know how unstable you are. How you're the reason this marriage failed. I clenched my jaw. She was going full scorched earth, trying to flip the narrative before I could. I could already imagine the sob story she'd spin to her friends, her family, maybe even mutual acquaintances. Poor Emily. Her husband just up and left her for no reason. He was always so paranoid, so controlling. She tried everything to fix the marriage, but he just wouldn't listen. I could already hear it. And worst of all, some people would probably believe her. I exhaled sharply, forcing myself to focus. If I let her get in my head now, she'd win. And I'd be damned if I let that happen. I got in my car, locked the doors, and started the engine. I wasn't going to text her back. I wasn't going to fight her over the phone. I was going to get ahead of her. I had proof. The texts, the lies, the betrayal, it was all sitting in my phone. And before she could twist the story, I was going to make sure the truth was out there. I knew exactly who I needed to call first. I gripped the steering wheel, my mind racing. If Emily wanted to play dirty, fine. But I wasn't going to let her blindside me. I had proof, real, undeniable proof, and I was going to make damn sure people saw the truth before she could spin her lies. First call. My best friend, Jake. He had been my rock for years, and if there was anyone who'd have my back, it was him. The phone rang twice before he picked up. Dude, it's midnight. Everything okay? I let out a bitter laugh. Not even close. Something in my tone must have told him this wasn't just a casual chat because he immediately sobered up. What happened? I took a deep breath, then said the words out loud for the first time. Emily's cheating on me. Silence. Then, you're joking. I wish. I ran a hand through my hair. I found the messages. Straight up proof. She's been screwing some guy from work for months. And now that I caught her, she's trying to flip the script on me. Jake cursed under his breath. That's insane. I mean, I knew she could be a piece of work, but this. Yeah, well, she's not done yet, I muttered. She's already texting me threats, saying she's gonna tell everyone I abandoned her. That she'll make sure people see me as the bad guy. Jake let out a sharp exhale. Of course she is. Classic manipulator move. I need to get ahead of this, I said. I don't care about her friends believing her, but my family. Our mutuals. I'm not letting her rewrite history. Damn right, Jake said. You tell me what you need, man. I got you. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. First thing tomorrow, I'm telling my family everything. And I'm making sure they see the proof. Jake didn't hesitate. And I'll start spreading the truth on my end. She wants a war. She's about to lose. For the first time that night, I felt like I had control again. Emily thought she could manipulate her way out of this. But she was about to learn exactly how wrong she was. The next morning, I didn't waste any time. I called my parents and told them to come over. I could feel the weight of the conversation already, but I wasn't going to let Emily's games dictate the narrative anymore. When they walked through the door, they could immediately tell something was wrong. My mom's face softened when she saw me, but my dad was all business, like he knew the seriousness of whatever was coming. "Son, what's going on?" Dad asked, his voice calm but with a hint of concern. I took a deep breath. I'm not sure how to say this, but Emily's been cheating on me. For months. With some guy from work. The silence that followed was suffocating. My mom looked shocked, her hand covering her mouth in disbelief. My dad's face didn't change much, he was still processing the words, but I could tell he wasn't happy about it. Are you sure about this? Dad asked, his voice steady, but I could hear the underlying anger. I have proof, I said, showing them the text messages I'd screenshot from my phone. I watched as they read through them, the weight of the betrayal sinking in for both of them. Jesus Christ, my dad muttered. This is. I don't even know what to say. I took another breath, pushing past the wave of emotion that threatened to crash over me. I didn't want to believe it at first, but she's been lying to my face for months. And now she's trying to make me look like the bad guy. She's already threatening to tell everyone I abandoned her. My mom finally spoke up, her voice shaking with emotion. How could she do this to you, honey? I raised her to be better than this. Maybe she was never who you thought she was, I said quietly. I know you don't want to hear it, but this isn't the first time she's been manipulative. I ignored the signs for so long because I didn't want to believe it. But now, it's clear as day. They exchanged a look, and my mom wiped her eyes. What do you need from us? I nodded, already knowing the answer. I need you to be there for me. I'm going to tell everyone the truth, and I need my family on my side. My dad clapped me on the back, his voice firm. You've got us, son. We'll make sure everyone knows what happened. For the first time in days, I felt a sense of relief. My family was in my corner, and together, we'd fight back against whatever Emily tried to spin. But I wasn't done. There was still a lot more to do. Once my family was on board, I knew the next step was to get the truth out to the people who mattered, our mutual friends, her family, anyone who would be impacted by the lies she was already planting. I made a list. I knew it was going to be uncomfortable, but I didn't care anymore. I had nothing to hide. Emily, on the other hand, had built an entire house of cards that was about to come crashing down. I reached out to a few of our close friends first. Jake helped by spreading the word through his circle. One by one, I started telling the people who mattered what had happened, showing them the evidence. I wanted to make sure everyone knew the truth before Emily could twist it. Some were shocked. Others, I could tell, weren't entirely surprised. Emily had a reputation for being a little self-centered, a little manipulative, but nobody knew the full extent until now. I called my brother, Matt, next. I needed him to know. Dude, I'm so sorry, he said when I explained everything. I never liked the way she treated you, but I had no idea it was this bad. I rubbed my temples. I should have seen it. I should have trusted my gut. No. You trusted your wife. That's not your fault. I exhaled, trying to shake off the weight of it all. Anyway, I'm telling everyone the truth. I just don't want her twisting things to make me the villain. Don't worry, Matt said. I'll make sure everyone knows. You've got us, man. All of us. It was surreal, watching people around me slowly piece together what had been going on behind closed doors. I wasn't even angry anymore, just exhausted. I had been living in this false reality, putting up with Emily's lies, and now it was all out in the open. Then, Emily started calling again. I ignored every single call. She left voicemail after voicemail, trying to sound sweet, pleading, begging for me to come home. But it was too late. The lies were already exposed, and she couldn't undo the damage. The final straw came when her sister called me. I knew exactly what was coming. I don't know what you think you're doing, but you're breaking her, her sister said, her voice shaking with anger. She's a mess, and it's your fault. How could you do this to her? I took a deep breath, keeping my voice steady. She's the one who cheated, and I'm the one who's been lied to for months. Maybe you should be mad at her for a change. Silence on the other end of the line. I could almost feel her trying to process that for the first time. Finally, her sister sighed. I just didn't know. I never saw that side of her. Well, now you do, I said. And I'm not going back. I'm done. As the days went on, things got messier. Emily was relentless, calling, texting, showing up at my door when I wouldn't pick up. I stayed firm, not letting her back into my life. The longer I ignored her, the more desperate she seemed to get. She couldn't handle losing control over me, and I could see it in every message, every attempt to guilt-trip me. The thing was, I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. One afternoon, she showed up at my apartment, unannounced, standing outside my door like she had a right to be there. I had just gotten home from running errands, and when I saw her, it was like my heart dropped into my stomach. But this time, I didn't feel the same confusion or desire to fix things. No, now all I felt was a quiet resolve. I opened the door, keeping it halfway shut. What do you want? She stared at me for a long moment, her eyes red from crying. It was clear she was trying to play the victim again, but this time, it didn't work. I just want to talk. No. We're not talking, I said firmly, crossing my arms. I've heard everything I need to hear. She looked at me like I had slapped her. You're really doing this, aren't you? Yes. I am. She shook her head, almost laughing, but it wasn't a laugh of relief or humor, it was one of disbelief. I can't believe you're throwing everything away like this. You're so stubborn. You always have been. I stepped back, closing the door a little more, but not slamming it. I didn't need to slam the door anymore to make a point. Her words didn't affect me. Goodbye, Emily. I locked the door behind me and didn't look back. I knew she wouldn't leave me alone entirely. I knew there would be more calls, more messages, but I had hit a point where nothing she could say or do would make me go back. The woman I loved was gone, she'd been gone for a long time, replaced by someone who couldn't even own up to their mistakes. I was already moving on. And as much as it hurt, I was finally free.